My name is Advocate Chris Schuring. I'm the principal legal practitioner based in Polokwane local office. I was requested to discuss divorces today. First of all, I would like to mention that on our website, www.legal-a.co.za, we have a divorce guide, which will be of great assistance to potential clients. Clients can also contact us on our advice line 0800 110 110, or they can send a please call me to 079 835 7179. And then, of course, they can also visit our website. So I think it's best that we just go through the process. How does it actually work? Clients will then contact our different social media platforms, like I've mentioned already. Then the local office where you're based will then contact you. They will then ask you a few questions about your exposure to the COVID. And then we will arrange a consultation. But to go through the process of a divorce, first of all, the first step will be we will then draft the pleadings. The pleadings will consist of a summons and then a particulars of claim. There will be a notice of intention to defend, which will be for the defendant. There will be a notice of intention not to defend in the case that the defendant does not wish to oppose the divorce. There will also be a stats form that will then be sent to the Department of Home Affairs, which will then later indicate that you are no longer married. And then in the event that there are children, there will be an Annexure A, what we call an Annexure A. That will basically be all about the children, where they go for school, where there will be a change of address and so forth. But the legal practitioner will assist you with the whole process. Then a lot of the times clients will ask, how long will a divorce take? Now, a divorce, it depends on the facts and circumstances of the case. We rely on different stakeholders. We rely on the sheriff. Once we've got the summons and all the pleadings ready, we will send it to court. And then there's a process what we call issuing. Then we will get a case number. Once we get the case number, then we will send your papers to the sheriff. Let's say you are based in Polokwane, and your husband, for example, is based in Johannesburg. Then we will send the summons to the Johannesburg sheriff. The sheriff must then go to your husband or wife to the physical address and hand the divorce summons to the husband or wife. And then that sheriff must then send the return of service. What we call the return of service is basically proof that your husband or wife received the divorce summons. And then the sheriff will then send the return of service back to our office. And then your husband or wife, it will then have 10 working days, which will then exclude public holidays and weekends. So basically 2 weeks. To indicate whether they want to oppose the divorce or not. And then if they then indicate that they want to oppose the divorce, then they will have a further 20 days, so another 4 weeks, to then file what we call their plea and counterclaim. So here we can see we're already sitting at 6 weeks. Plus then we have to rely on the sheriff. Now, some sheriffs do they work quite efficiently, others maybe not. So it will take some time. Whether it will be a week, whether it will be a few weeks, that depends on the sheriff. Then if we then receive a notice of intention to defend from the defendant, which will then be your husband or wife, then we will get the plea and we can respond to it. And then, of course, we can also enter into settlement negotiations to see if we can settle the matter. On top of that, if we cannot settle the matter and there is, for example, a dispute about the permanent residence of the children, then we will have to request the family advocate to do a report. And the family advocate will then interview everyone, at times even visit the homestead to see which parent will be best suitable to have permanent residence of the child or children. And that again can take time, because it's quite a thorough report and will take all the different facts and circumstances into account. So again, the duration, as you can now imagine, it can take a long time. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's just an unopposed divorce. There's no children involved. It's a quick process. But let's say it's an opposed divorce. There's big fighting between the parties. There are children involved. You can imagine that can take a long time. Then even after all that, then after we've received the report, and let's say we've settled the matter, then we still have to apply for a date at court. And that can take some time as well. And depending on where you're based, it will depend on how busy the court is and how soon we can get a date. So that's just a bit about the duration. The next thing maybe we can discuss is the different marital regimes. What people don't realize is that the default position is in community of property. So if you go to Home Affairs and you're in love with this man or woman and you get married, and the default position will be in community of property, which basically means everything goes 50-50, right? Then you can always then marry out of community of property. You can have a antenuptial contract with accrual, without accrual. This basically means that whatever value your estate is at the time of marriage will then accrue, will then grow. And then at the end of the marriage, when there's a divorce, we will look at how much did your estate grow, how much did the other, your spouse's estate grow, and we will look at the difference. But mostly what we found, it's in community of property. Then, of course, there's a division of a joint estate. Ideally, the movables must be divided equally. Pensions, if there are pensions, can be divided. Then, of course, there's the issue of maintenance that must be considered, whether it be spousal maintenance or then maintenance of the minor children. Usually, it will be best to request the maintenance court. If there's no agreement, to approach the maintenance court. It's a free process, once again. Then to look at the income of both parties and the needs of both parties. All of that is taken into account, and the maintenance court will then attempt to settle the matter once again. And if there's no settlement, the maintenance court will then make an order as to how much maintenance will have to be paid. I think there's a misconception also that legal aid does not take on new divorces. That is not true. Like I've mentioned, if you want to institute a divorce, you can contact our advice line. You can send that please call to our number provided. You can go through our divorce guide, and we will be in contact with you, and we will arrange consultations. At times, there will be what we call variation of a degree of divorce. If the parties agree, let's say there's a settlement, but there's a change of circumstances, and both parties agree that this divorce order that we got is no longer applicable and we want to change it, and we both agree that it must be changed, then we can approach the court and we ask the court that the divorce order that was granted must be changed or must be varied. So yes, we can do that. A question that we also get a lot of the times is that I married my husband or my wife 5 years ago. I've got no idea where he or she is. What we then will request, we will request clients to do whatever they can, to contact the family, to contact his or her previous employment, to contact the family, the friends, everyone, and to take whatever steps you can to find your spouse. If you still can't find your spouse, then you can approach our offices, and we will then approach the court and we inform the court, look, we've done everything, the client has done everything he or she could to find this person. We will then also appoint a tracer to see if we cannot find this person through a tracking company. Even then, if we can't find the person, what we will do then is that we will put your divorce summons in a newspaper. It will be published in a newspaper. The time limit is then, of course, a bit more to ensure that the spouse is aware of the divorce. But yes, it is possible to proceed with the divorce if you have no idea where your spouse currently resides. But you've got to prove that you've done everything you possibly can to find your spouse. The question that we get asked always is, do I need a lawyer to get divorced? And that's not always the case. You can approach your regional court, your local court, and there's forms that you can complete. The only cost then will be the sheriff's costs. It will depend on the sheriff, depend on the area, depend on where your husband or your spouse resides. So yes, you can complete the forms yourself if you're comfortable in doing that. The forms are fairly self-explanatory, but make sure that if you're unsure, that you can always approach our offices through the mediums that I've already mentioned, so that we can assist you just to make sure that everything is completed correctly. At times, people will leave out certain things which turns out to be important, especially when it comes to children, and at times when it comes to pension funds. So yes, you can do it yourself. You can go to court, fill in the forms, pay the sheriff, and then follow the whole procedure. So yes, you can do it yourself. But if you feel you're not comfortable with it, or if you feel that you just need advice to complete the form, you can always approach one of our offices. Let's say both the husband and wife, they qualify for legal aid. The wife came to legal aid, and then the husband gets the summons. He can also approach legal aid. If we see there's a dispute, a genuine dispute, we will then appoint private attorneys to then protect his or her interests. In our example, the husband we approach legal aid, and we will then appoint private attorneys at the cost of legal aid. So no cost, once again, to legal aid. It will proceed on that basis. You will have your own private attorney without there being a conflict of interest. I think it's also very important, very, very important, is that no legal aid attorney will ever ask you for any money. And if you've been asked for any money from any legal aid attorney or any legal aid employee, please immediately contact us and provide us with information of when and why you were asked for money. So that's it's quite a serious point that we will never ask you for a cent unless there's an agreement that there will be a contribution to cost. But that's a whole process that will be followed. So clients must just be aware that there will never be an exchange of money between you and legal aid employees. Okay, I think we've covered basically all the basic steps of a divorce. Just be reminded again of all our ways to contact legal aid. I hope this clip will assist you.